Regions. Regions are the things that comprise zones. And through decomposing the zone, we can break it up into individual regions of contiguous or adjacent cells. Then we have regions. So we talked about zones and regions. Well, zones are a number of regions that share the same cell values. So for example, in this map portion here, the land use types wooded area is composed of a single zone, and it has many disconnected regions. So there's a dark piece of wooded area, dark piece of wooded area here. There's larger ones in here that may be connected very strangely, but there's a lot of fragments of that particular wooded area, for example. And those are the regions again. So just highlighting those, that's the highlighted area in yellow is the forest one, the dark green ones. And we can then split that into individual regions. So we select it out so that all we have here now is the raster, which is showing us the regions that were the forest, the dark green. So we select those out, and then we ask ArcGIS Pro to decompose it into regions. And then it would look like that, where each region just has a different color. Obviously the same color repeats sometimes, but generally each region here would have a unique color because each region now has a set of cells with unique ID that belongs to all cells within a region. And you see it's quite fragmented everywhere. And putting it back with the other stuff, now we have regions within the zones. And again, each region itself is technically a zone in this case. But it's called a region because technically zones, we would technically think of zones, we think of to have zones you have to have at least two disconnected parts of the zone, two regions. Otherwise, you just have a region. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense to talk about them that way when you have, a whole map and everything's zone, except there happens to be one isolated set of numbers, and there's no other ones on the map. You're not going to call it, say, we have one region and 10 zones. We call them all zones. So generally, we say any value on a categorical level raster represents a zone. Region group is how we create individual regions from zones. So for example, here I have a raster, which is land use, and I put it into region group, the function, and I say create regions based on 8 neighbors. So that means that we have a 9-cell neighborhood, and that neighbors that only share a corner are considered adjacent. And that will be considered part of the same region if they have the same value. So that's what the 8 there means. The other option is 4. And that means only cells that share an entire border are considered adjacent. So after the region group, then that's what we see. Our entire land use has numerous polygons with unique identifiers. Each of those regions can also be called a zone at this point, but it's a zone. Each zone is composed of a single set of contiguous numbers, cells with the same number, I should say. When you do a region group, the interesting thing is you can port over what's called the link field. Because remember, once you region group something, it has no memory of where it came from. It's just now a group of cells with the same value. But for some reasons, you may want to be able to cross-reference a particular region to know what zone it originally belonged to. And the link field in the region table tells us this. The link contains a value, and the value in the link field, like 1, for example, a value equal to 1 means that region belongs to zone 1 in the original zone layer. And so you can cross-reference that way.